स्लाइड नंबर्स तो मैंने तुम्हें इंडिविजुअली
Namaskar. Warm welcome to all of you. I'm Nupur Kulshre joining you today on this session. You're watching us live on eVidya channel number 12, and you may also stream this session live on our YouTube channel ncertofficial. Today we are going to discuss something really very important and interesting. We are going to discuss two important topics today, and these topics are Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, and Effective Reading Strategies for Comprehension of Class 12 English. And to discuss these topics in detail, we have with us Dr. Rajni Jamini, Lecturer English at Rajkiya Pratibha Vikas Vidyalaya, Lajpat Nagar. Welcome to the session, ma'am. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear viewers, if you have any query related to our topic, feel free to call us on this number 8800-440-559, and you may also email your queries to dth.class12@cit.nic.in. So let's explore our topic with ma'am. So ma'am, what are we going to discuss and learn today?
Yes, Nupur, like you can see in the heading title itself, it's reading of Lost Spring, which is a grade 12 lesson, Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. But along with the lesson, we are also going to be focusing on some reading strategies for effective comprehension, because it's not just one text that we want to read. We want to be able to read any text that comes our way in a manner so that we are able to understand it, we are able to create an engagement with it, we are able to get deeper insights into it. So students, today I am going to be sharing with you some strategies which will help you with the reading of any text, not just the lesson that we are talking about today. So are you ready? Shall we start with the lesson?
Yes, I am ready, and I think our viewers are also ready.
Yes, so if I could just share in brief the learning objectives that we'll be focusing on today, then the first thing, like I said, would be to learn effective reading strategies that lead to active engagement with the text and unlock insights. The second thing which is going to be our focus today is understanding the social issues related to poverty, lack of education and child labor as is highlighted in the lesson. And the third thing that we'll be talking about is how to make connections between what we read in a text and our real life experiences and examples, what we see in the world, in the environment around us. So all three things are going to be very important, and
that is very interesting and exciting. So what is the first strategy would you recommend to learners that they can implement in their reading?
Yes, Nupur. So the first strategy is to preview all the material that you have, that even before reading you gain some knowledge about the text. Say for example, today we have the lesson Lost Spring. So looking at the word itself, Lost Spring, when we say Lost Spring, what words come to your mind when you hear the word spring? So Nupur, I'm asking you also, but I'm also asking all our viewers, all our students out there who are watching this program live, think about what does spring denote to you?
Flowers, greenery are all around, and pleasant weather.
Yes. So is the fragrance of spring coming to your nostrils right away?
Yes, exactly.
So it's about new leaves and trees, renewal, growth, and some of the words that you can see have been given to me by the students only. That there are visible changes because of the weather, which is neither too hot nor too cold, and there are butterflies everywhere, and budding growth and renewal is in the environment all the time. So from the word Lost Spring, when we talk about spring, spring is all about this, but what about when it is lost? So it is something about, it is talking about how losing of spring has an effect on on the lives of people. So
Right.
because it is comparing spring to human life, once again my question to you, Nupur, and our students is, which stage of human life do you think spring can be compared to?
I think a very young stage, initial stage of our life, which we called childhood.
Yes, absolutely. So, as a child, just like childhood is a very important phase of human life, similarly, spring is a very important season. So,
We grow, there is nourishment, happiness.
Yes.
Whenever we see a child, we see happy faces.
yes, you do.
Right.
But when you are saying happiness, it's important that children stay happy. And what is it that they need to stay happy?
They need a good environment, good people, and right to right to education,
Yes,
food, shelter,
yes,
hygiene.
yes.
So there are many things for a child need for their development and growth.
So since we are talking about spring and children, so during spring the trees need manure and water and the optimum temperature to be able to grow. Similarly, our children also need education, nourishment, good good
Environment,
food,
yeah.
good clothes, good emotional environment, security, to be able to grow up into responsible adults, to be
Right.
able to realize what is their potential. So like I said, that the first strategy is that we look at the heading of the lesson itself and try to decipher for ourselves as to what the lesson could be
Right.
about. Similarly, we should also look at the pictures that are there in the text and try and understand what those pictures are trying to tell us. So this is a picture that I've taken from our NCERT textbook only, and children and Nupur, please
Right.
tell me, what do you think? What can you see in the picture?
I see a group of children, and they are dressed in tall clothes without footwear, barefoot, and carrying a bag and something on their hands.
Yes, lovely. And what do you think is the background all about? Does it look like a rural background or urban? Is there a city in the background?
I
or?
think it's urban background with some a factory, a kind of factory there.
Yes, yes. So these children are staying on the margins of the cities. That much we can make out, and children who are, I mean, by their looks only you can see that they are poor and they do not have proper clothes to wear. The bag that they are carrying, this is the bag of the rag pickers. So they are rag pickers, which we, children we found every day in the morning around our houses, picking all the garbage that we generate in the city. So I mean, it is a sad situation that so many children are engaged in this work of rag picking.
Right.
And some of the words that have been contributed to by the students only, that the child seems, all of them seem to be thin, they seem to be malnourished, and they are bare feet, and but still they are happy. Although the facial expression is has not been shown because it's more like a cartoon, but you can see that the children seem full of energy, they are running, they are excited, and they seem to be talking to each other, in shouting out to each other and feeling very happy. So, so all this we have gathered even before we have started reading the text that we have. So
Right.
student, it's very important that we actually preview the material that has been given to us, and by previewing try to predict or try to gauge what is going to be the theme or topic of our lesson. So
And ma'am, the topics we are going to discuss today have their own importance. So here I would like to know, what is the purpose of writing it? Can you please explain something about the author? What?
Yes, reading about the author also gives us the important context of the lesson, because every text is a product of the person who is writing it. It's a product of its times. It is rooted in a particular context, and so this lesson has been written by Anis Jung. She was born in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. Actually, she belongs to the royal family. She is one of the aristocrats of the Hyderabad family. Her father, Nawab Hoshiar Jung, was also a writer and poet. She received her education in Hyderabad and in United States of America. Her parents, both her parents were writers, and she began her career as a writer in India. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad. And the story that we have with us today, the stories are from her book Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. So from this book we have two stories that which we are going to read today. And in these stories, in the book itself, she analyzes how grinding poverty and traditions condemn so many children in our country to a life of exploitation and a life of denied resources.
Right.
So these children are not able to do well in life because the spring of their life, that is the childhood, the time at which they were supposed to get food and education and support and nourishment and all the things that a child deserves, was denied to them, and they ended up working as child laborers even at that age. And you can all guess that if a child is denied these resources, then how their adult life gets affected. What kind of people do they become? Are they actually able to become a resource for the country, or are they become a burden?
Right.
So these are questions that our children need to understand and ask themselves. And also I want that they should be feeling thankful for the kind of education that they are getting, and value it, because not every child has been fortunate enough to get it.
So we will learn different strategies today. So I think first strategy seems to be really very helpful. We are now familiar with the topic even before we have actually started reading it. So here we were discussing strategy 2. So there are different strategies, and we will learn all the strategies one by one. So what is the number 2 strategy, ma'am?
Yes. So once again, engaging with the text is important, and strategy 2 is all about asking questions to clarify what you are reading and understanding the text.
Right.
So asking questions is also about a lot about predicting as to what is going to come next, and what do you think this particular text is trying to say to you. So it's important that you read a sentence and then ask yourself what is it that it is trying to tell you. And for this I'm sharing a very important technique, which is the technique of annotative reading.
Some points as well, ma'am. So you will explain the annotative text, right?
Yes. So students, there was a time when I used to think that a book should not be touched, or a pencil should not be touched in the book. The book should look neat and clean even after you have read it. But believe me, if you have a pencil in hand when you are reading a text, it's important that you put as many marks on it as help you understand and engage with the text. So I would still say don't use pens, but do use pencil or something from using which you can make notes in the margins, like you can see in the picture that we have shared. And underline which you think are the key concepts, because the next time when you look at the text, you don't have to go through it completely, you don't have to read word by word again. You should underline it, whatever you feel is the key concept and is important for understanding the basis of the text. Second mark that students use is circle. So whenever you come across any unfamiliar terms or phrases which you want to come back to later, so you can circle it out, you can put a question mark next to it, then you can use a box, the mark of a box, for information that you think might be helpful for designing your investigation, because so many times in a text there are things that you want to find out more about. Then put that into box and keep jotting down your notes and reactions in the left hand side margin or in the right hand side margin, whichever margin is available to you in a particular textbook. And finally, do keep writing the questions and answers in the margins, because as we read, we are going to be filled with lots of questions as to who is saying it, what is being said, and why something is being said, and what is the reference, what is the context. So all these questions and answers also need to be marked in the margins, so that when you come back to that text, you know what you read and what was the meaning that you drew from the text. Similarly, if someone else also looks at those annotations, they are able to actually understand and read that particular text with a lot of insight, all the insights that you had.
So you just understood the annotative reading with an example. Ma'am explained it really very well. So moving on to the next strategy, what we have, ma'am?
Okay, yes. So we also have one example from the textbook, and here, as you can see, this is our first story from Stories of Stolen Childhood, and the name of the story is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. And the story begins, "Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood." So as you can see, there is an I in the name of the story. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. And then in the next sentence itself, "Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning." So as you can see that there is a difference. The first question that you have to ask yourself is, are both the I's the same? But as you read further, students, you are going to realize that when the I in the heading refers to Sahib, while the I in the first sentence refers to the writer Anis Jung, who is the narrator of the story also. So she is the one who is asking Sahib, she is the one who meets Sahib every morning in the garbage dumps of the neighborhood. And so as you can see, I have circled both the I's because these were questions that I needed to figure out. I've underlined, "Why do you do this?" You can box out important phrases like scrounging for gold and anything else that catches your eye. So the story moves on. Sahib left his home in Dhaka, left his home in the green fields of Dhaka. So by that we can understand that Sahib and his family have come from Bangladesh, and there were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. So as you can see that they came from Dhaka because there were storms in that area, and that's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. So very little information, but still you are getting to know so much from this one small paragraph itself. So it's not just Sahib and his family who have migrated from a rural background to the big city. Lot of people move away from villages because villages do not offer enough opportunities to earn a living. and they come to cities, because in the cities it's easier. So someone like Sahib, who has no skills, who has no education, can also earn a living simply by picking garbage. So I want you to think about other people that you might know. There may be people around you who you feel have come from a rural background, have left their villages and have come to the city in search of a livelihood. So as you can see further, I have boxed out the word glibly. Go to school, I say glibly. Again, it's a word that I want you to look the meaning for. So any words, any text, any questions, any difficult words or phrases that you find need looking into, it's good to use annotative marks. Make your own notes in the margin to be able to interact with the text.
Right, ma'am. And ma'am, next strategy talks about active reading. What do we understand by active reading?
Yes, so we have done 2 strategies till now, Nupur, and our strategy number 3 is again about interacting with the text, understanding it on a deeper level, and use think marks. So whenever we read something, we are able to predict what is going to happen next. Right. And there are parts which are special for us. So most of I encourage the readers to use think marks, like what is it that they found funny, they can write that LOL next to it maybe. If they found something confusing, they can put a question mark next to it. If they find something becomes which touches their heart, then they can use a heart emoji next to it. For inferences, they can write an I. For making connections, they can write a C. Whenever they are able to visualize what the writer is describing, they can draw these eyes. And for important parts they can use the star mark, and for exciting parts an I can suffice. And finally, whenever you learn a new information, you can write an N next to it. So all these think marks also help students interact with the text, engage with it at a deeper level, and also help them make notes in the text itself, so that they are able to understand what they read, and the next time it becomes easier for them. So as you can see, I have this small extract from the text only. The writer says Sahib says, there is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. And the narrator says, if I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. So Nupur, I want you to notice how the text is moving on. That as educated people, our first reaction whenever a child is out of school is to preach to them that they should go to school. हम बहुत जल्दी लोगों को सिखाने शुरू हो जाते हैं कि अरे तुम स्कूल क्यों नहीं जाते, बट we forget we don't realize their circumstances and their conditions. और इस situation में अगर आप देखें तो अनीस जंग ने बड़े thoughtlessly उसको बोल दिया कि भाई आप स्कूल क्यों नहीं जा रहे हो. And Sahib's problem is that there is no school in his neighborhood. उसके आसपास कोई स्कूल है ही नहीं. And she says, if I start a school, will you come? अगर मैं स्कूल शुरू करूं तो क्या तुम आओगे? I ask, half joking. Now, but do we have a right to make jokes like this with these children? Because it's like promising a child a chocolate. What will happen? Nupur, agar main
with the emotions of child, we can't play with the emotions of child.
Yes. So it's almost like if I not even a child, even if I were to say to you, Nupur, कि अब मैं आपको आइसक्रीम खिलाऊंगी, तो नेक्स्ट डे आप मुझसे पूछोगे ना कि मैम आप मेरे लिए आइसक्रीम लाए कि नहीं लाए. So in this situation also, the writer says, if I start a school, will you come? And a few days later, when Sahib sees her again, he says, is your school ready? Yes, because he is very excited about going to school, and it takes longer to build a school. I say embarrassed. But one of the best things about this particular piece is that the writer herself realizes that she had no right to make a promise like that, a promise which was never meant, because she was not in that area to open a school. She was not there to, she was just collecting some data for her book. She was talking to these children to get these stories. But the sad statement that she makes is that promises like mine abound in every corner of this bleak world. So इन बच्चों की दुनिया में लोग इसी तरह लोग आते हैं और promises करके चले जाते हैं. तो this was not the first time. This was not the first time that someone made a promise to Sahib. And another word that is important here is that she asks him what his name is, and he says, my name is Sahib-e-Alam, which means Lord of the Universe. And she says that if he knew what the real meaning of his name is, he would have a hard time believing it, because Lord of the Universe is not even the Lord of his own circumstances. He is not in a situation to make decisions for himself, leave aside for the universe. So like I said, that an important strategy is to use think marks. You can use asterisks, you can use question marks, you can use marks for if something is funny or something you like or something touches your heart or something you want to find more about.
Right. So here we move on to the next strategy.
Yes.
Strategy number 4, I think.
Yes, so strategy number 4 is making inferences. So I talked about making predictions earlier. So talking about what is the difference between prediction and an inference. Prediction is that you are able to plan or say that okay, maybe something like this is going to happen, but an inference is something that is based on facts and evidence. So when as you are reading the text, you should be able to draw conclusions and make inferences that okay, this part is mentioned and that tells you. So whenever you draw a conclusion based on that, that is called making inferences. Once again, to discuss an example, we'll now come to the second story from the stories of stolen of childhood. The second story is I want to drive a car, and this is the story of Mukesh. And Mukesh insists on being his own master, and he announces, I will be a motor mechanic. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. So Anis Jung is also asking him questions. She wants to know more about him. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dream looks like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town, Firozabad. So the first story was about the rag pickers. The second story is about children who are engaged in the work of making bangles in the town of Firozabad. So Firozabad is famous for its bangles, and every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces. So Mukesh is also one such child. And like I said, that our strategy about making inferences is that we know that Mukesh wants to do something else, but will he have the opportunities, will he be able to realize his dream, knowing that all his family and people of his whole town are engaged in the work of making bangles only. So that becomes important. Then moving on, we have strategy number 5, which is visualizing. So whenever you are reading a text, it is important, Nupur, that we visualize, make mental images or movies in our mind to represent the ideas that the text is talking about. So, the writer has used very descriptive language to tell us or to create a picture of the town of Firozabad for us, and engaging with the text. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers. So, he is a young child and he is so happy. So, his eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. So, you can actually see a young boy, in your mind's eye, who is very happy at welcoming a guest who is not from their city or town. So, are you students, do you also feel very happy when someone is coming to your house? And do you make preparations for showing them around? So Mukesh is also very happy, and he's very proud at the proud of the fact that his house is being rebuilt, and so he is hoping that his house is probably better than all the other houses in the neighborhood. But Anis describes it for us. We walk down stinking lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. So, as you can see, from the child's perspective, his house is very beautiful, but from the perspective of the writer, she is able to give you a picture where it's a small town, but there is no sewage, there is no drainage, and the lanes are choked with garbage. There is so much garbage in the lanes, and the houses are made up of crumbling walls. The walls are breaking down, the doors are wobbly, means they are rickety, they do not have any strong foundation, and the houses are so small that there are no windows, and in the same houses they are crowded with families of humans and animals. So both are living together in the same place. So by reading just these 2-3 sentences, you are able to actually draw a mental picture. So students, you can also draw physical pictures, draw it with using a paper and pen as you go along, as to what kind of
so ma'am, visualization can help students to understand and remember the information during the exam time.
Yes, it's almost like we are walking down the lanes of Firozabad ourselves. We may not have gone to Firozabad in person, but reading the text actually helps
visualize
us
that, right.
Visualize the kind of situation that is to be seen there. So that's what texts do for us, that they make us understand, and when we are able to make mental images, we are able to understand a text better, and it stays with us. It stays with us for a longer time.
Right, very true. So this is our strategy number 5, I think, ma'am.
Yes, and moving on to strategy number 6, that is summarizing. So I would say again, it's a very important strategy that whenever you read, you need not read the whole part, but even with a little portion of the text, you should always try to retell it in your own words, that what is it that I have read. Be it a paragraph, be it a part of the text, or be it the whole text. So always summarize in your own words, because when you are summarizing in your own words, you are basically not just decoding the lesson, you are also reproducing it with your own understanding of what this lesson is all about. So if we are to look at the summary of this lesson, we know that we have 2 stories of 2 child characters. One is Sahib and the other is Mukesh. And Sahib lives with his family in Simapuri slums in Delhi after migrating from Bangladesh. With no other options, he picks rags from garbage dumps to find scraps that can be sold. Similarly, Mukesh lives in Firozabad, famous for its glass bangle industry, and his family has been involved in making bangles for generations. Mukesh works in a glass furnace from a young age, like many other children of his area of his neighborhood, and despite these difficult circumstances, both boys dream of better opportunity. Sahib wants to go to school while Mukesh wants to become a motor mechanic. And the story highlights poverty, lack of education that children have to face because of difficult financial circumstances that they have, and the story explores the grim realities of their lives versus what are the things that they dream about. So, like I said, Nupur, this is one summary that has been written by me or some of the students, but as it's an important strategy that each child, whenever they are reading something, they should try to write a short summary of what they have read, and they write a summary the first time, and then when they read it the second time, sometimes they can add to the summary because their understanding of the text becomes better every time they read it. But it's important that they try to retell it in their own words. And
yes, yes, it is very important to rewrite the story in their own words, because when you tell and narrate the story in your own words, it will help you to memorize the things.
it will.
Yes, so moving on to next strategy, we have strategy number 7, and it talks about.
Yes, so strategy number 7 is about analyzing the elements of the text, and if we talk about the text that we have in front of us, then that is about you have to talk about what the setting is, what the characters are, what are the themes in the story, what are the conflicts, and what is the resolution that happens in the story. So, talking about the setting, as you can see for both the stories. So, the first story is set in Simapuri, which is a place in Delhi, and it has been described as a wilderness with makeshift mud huts lacking basic amenities, and around 10,000 people including Sahib's family live as quarters in Simapuri. And the setting of the second story is Firozabad, which is in UP, and it is known internationally for glass bangles industry, and Mukesh's town is depicted as having garbage filled lanes and children living in dark hutments, and lot of children are involved in making bangles, and the places where they work lacks ventilation and there is no light. So, like I said, it's important that we understand the setting. The next is to analyze the characters. So, the first major character that we have in the first story is Sahib-e-Alam, who is a rag picker and who picks garbage as a way to earn a living, and he is curious and eager to learn and enjoys going to the neighborhood club. It's a guard who allows him to watch other rich children play in the club, and he dreams of going to school but has to work due to the poverty that his family is facing, and he represents children from marginalized backgrounds and deprived childhoods. The second character that we have is the character of Mukesh, who works in the glass furnace from a young age, and he is determined to study and become a mechanic, unlike his family, which has accepted its fate of the family feels that they have been working as bangle makers for generations, and the coming generations are also going to be doing the same work. And so his dream, it actually is a spark of defiance against the cycle of poverty, and Mukesh symbolizes the potential that the underprivileged children also have, and if given an opportunity they can also become and do things in life. But the biggest problem that we face is that these children do not get the opportunities that they deserve. And talking about the themes that we have in the story, one of the biggest themes that is outline is the theme of poverty, which forces children like Sahib and Mukesh into adult roles of earning livelihoods instead of going to school or enjoying fun and frolic of childhood. And their family's financial insecurity takes away their childhood innocence. The second important theme is the theme of child labor. So these children are working in industries which are hazardous. So Mukesh works in the glass industry, which is known for all the children that work there, so many times they lose their eyesight, and they burn themselves also because they have to work in furnaces under furnaces which have such great temperature. And education is depicted as a distant dream for these working children because they cannot go to school. Another important theme is dreams versus reality, and Sahib's desire for education is a dream, while his reality is that he has to work every morning, he has to pick up his bag and go as a rag picker. And in the second part of the story, it's important for us to realize that even when he gives up the work of rag picker, he becomes a full-time servant at a tea stall. So from the perspective of some people, it might appear to be a cleaner work because there is no garbage involved. He is working at a tea stall. But from the perspective of the child, when he was working as a rag picker, he enjoyed his freedom. While working at a tea stall, he actually becomes a servant and is dependent upon the tea stall owner's mood and treatment for his own life. So any small agency or any small freedom that he had is also lost when he becomes or when he moves on to a proper labor, a life of a labor. Secondly, we have Mukesh's dream of becoming a mechanic versus his reality of generations of people who are engaged as bangle makers. So that was strategy number 7.
And we have next strategy number 8, and that is decode these special elements.
Yes. So when I say decode these special elements, just like as part of strategy number 7, we analyzed the story in terms of what is the setting, what are the characters, what are the themes. So this time our task is going to be that we look at what kind of language has the writer used, and to which genre the story belongs to, what are the unique features of this particular text. So if you can see that this is not a fictional story, this is Anis Jung going to places and actually talking with the children and presenting to you live stories of what these children are going through. So it's not a fictional story, it's a factual one. And when we look at the language, we can see that how the writer uses great descriptive language, because you are actually able to visualize the lack of amenities that people in Simapuri face. Similarly, the streets of Firozabad also become a reality for you when you look at it from the eyes of Anis Jung, because of the descriptive language that she has used. She also has used lot of sensory details because Mukesh's sister-in-law is someone who is working and on a chulha, and in that chulha, if you know that if you don't know how to work properly, then your eyes fill with smoke because of the wood that you are using. And so similarly, when children are embarrassed and they don't know how to answer, they shuffle their feet. So the language is full of sensory details. she is also using very figurative language, which adds a lot of depth to her descriptions. So she describes poverty as a web. So you are actually able to, you know, visualize a web in which people are caught, they are trapped. Similarly, she says that garbage to them is gold. So anyone would know that garbage cannot be gold, but to these children and to these people, the rag pickers, they are, it is gold, because just like gold is precious to us, garbage is precious to them.
Right.
And similarly, you know, when she uses comparisons, then the comparisons are used to highlight children's perspectives. So she says that the steel canister that Sahib gets when he starts working on a tea stall is heavier than the plastic bag. So here she is not talking about the physical heaviness of the canister or the bag. What she is talking about is how when Sahib was a rag picker, he was his own master. The plastic bag was his. No one was ordering him about. But when he becomes a tea stall worker, then the owner of the tea stall orders him about, makes him work according to his wishes, according to his time. And that's why the steel canister appears heavier than the plastic bag. So when we talk about you know, the special elements, we can also talk about the social issues that have been highlighted in this lesson. So one major social issue that the writer talks about is child rights. That we talk about, we have a law which says that the children have a right to education. It is one of their fundamental rights. They also have the right to protection from labor exploitation, but you know, these laws and these rights are not enforced, because of which these children lose out on what they deserve. Similarly, you know, the lesson highlights the lack of labor reforms, the lack of access to education, and you know, how you know, poverty alleviation also becomes an important issue. So these are the social issues that have been highlighted in the text. And moving on, so we have strategy number 9, which is activating prior knowledge. So you may say that, you know, activating prior knowledge somehow should come before, but why am I talking about it at strategy number 9 is because it's important that you even after reading the text, that you start making connections between what you are reading and what you already know, because the more connections you will be able to make, the better you will be able to understand, and you know, understand with a lot of insight. Because whenever there is a text before you, it's important that you ask yourself as to am I able to connect this experience with something that I have seen in real life, or something that might have happened to me, or to someone around me. So connecting a text to self is important. Similarly, connecting the text to another text also is important, that whenever you read about it, you ask yourself, have you read any other text which talks about similar issues, or which talks about similar things. And finally, you know, are you able to connect the text to the world? Does it remind you of something in the world? So children, all the you know, small children that you see or notice on you know, maybe begging at the junctions of roads, or working at just like Sahib is working at a tea stall. Here we can talk about any other children that you may have seen working in households or other places. So it's important that you make connections and you know, focus on what all does the text remind you of. Another important thing is that you look at keywords. What are the words that stand out for you from the text? So I have you know, noted down only 3 words: poverty, child labor, and dreams. But that should not limit you. You can note down as many keywords as you want from a text to to make it, to make notes for yourself as to what you feel is the lesson all about. So these are the keywords, and we also have a few questions that we want you to, focus on and write in your notebooks maybe. So, what prompts Sahib's family to migrate and where do they settle? So, the first question that I've shared with you is a simple factual question. The answer to the question is given in the textbook, and you know from the passage that we read that Sahib's family migrated to a city because in the rural area their fields did not produce anything, and there were frequent storms because of which they lost their whatever crops they sowed. And finally, where do they settle? They migrate from there, they come to Delhi and they settle into Simapuri. And Simapuri is Seema, as you know, it's a Hindi word. So at that time Simapuri was on the borders of Delhi. So that's why it was known as Simapuri. Although the way Delhi has grown, it is no more on the Seema, so to say. And the second question is, what is Mukesh's ambition? How is it different from his family? So the first part of the question, as you can see, it is factual in nature, but you will have to really think to find out that why or how is it different from his family, because his family believes in karma, his family believes in fate, his family also believes in the caste system. So they say that because we are born in the caste of bangle makers, we can't do anything other than making bangles. But Mukesh has this spark. Mukesh is trying to put down this burden and do something different. Then the next question is, describe the living conditions in Simapuri and Firozabad. And so I am not going to discuss all the questions, but I would want that students, you should note down these questions, maybe take a screenshot and attempt them in your notebooks.
So we have next strategy, and I think this is the strategy number 10, and I think it is the last strategy of our session.
Yes, so finally we have strategy number 10, which is the last for today. So it's important that you personalize the text by writing, making notes on the page also. I said make notes in the margins, but it's important that you jot down what you have understood on the page. You can make mind maps, you can draw your own conclusions, and one small activity that I'm sharing with you is to how you can relate the themes of poverty and lack of opportunities or child labor highlighted in the chapter to real life examples in your own environment, community, or places that you have visited. I'm also sharing with you a small mind map to give you an example of how you can plot the stories in your own words, and that will help you remember what the stories are trying to highlight point by point. And when we talk about conclusions, yes, these are some of the conclusions that have been written by some of the students when they read the story. But like I said, it's important that all of you draw your own conclusions. This story, as you can see, it's a reflection on the struggles faced by underprivileged children, and despite these challenges, the characters of Mukesh and Sahib-e-Alam, they demonstrate human spirit of hope through their dreams and ambitions. And the story also highlights the need of systemic changes and social reforms that are needed to protect children and offer them opportunities. And most importantly, it emphasizes the value of education as the key to better future.
Right. So here, ma'am, after this, chapter explaining it so well, would you like to assign any homework to these students?
Yes. So I have a few questions, students. do write them, and I would say you can also share your homework with us.
Yes, definitely they can share their homework with us and mail they can mail their homework to dth.class12@cit.nic.in on this mail ID. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And students, I hope you've understood the strategies and you actually use these strategies to engage with and interact with your textual material better. And like I said, it is not just for the texts in your syllabus. Any book that you want to read carefully, it's important that you use these strategies because they are going to help you comprehend what the text is trying to convey better.
Right. So we have learned different strategies today. We have talked about 10 different strategies, and all these strategies can make your learning and reading interesting and better. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today.
Thank you.
So every child has right to education, shelter, and food, and we must all work together to provide, a better life to them. It's time for me to say goodbye. Take care. Namaskar.